Sean Redwood.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, this referendum gives the British people a great opportunity to restore their precious but damaged democracy. For all too long, the British people have had to watch as successive parliaments have given away their birthright by transferring important powers to the European Union. It's taken big decisions away from the sovereignty of the British people and given it to the bureaucracy of the European Union. I believe in the sovereignty of the British people, and I would like to help them restore it. Before we joined the European Economic Community, the sovereignty of the British people was clear and it worked well. The British people could elect a parliament. The parliament was sovereign until it had to face re-election. It meant that the parliament was responsive to the British people between elections, because it meant that those elected recognised that if they did not please, did not serve well, if the chosen government did not govern wisely, they would be thrown out by the British people at the end of the 5 years. So the sovereignty of the British people required a sovereign parliament that they could dismiss and they could influence. And much of the architecture of this building and the political architecture of our country was based on maximising the access to MPs and on maximising the influence of MPs over the wider government.
I thank the right honourable gentleman for giving way, but does he not accept that in the concept of what is now the European Union, it's quite usual for member states to actually pool sovereignty, and the democratic process that he talks about is a situation where you actually elect members of the European Parliament who are democratically elected to their accountable to their electors, can make decisions on behalf of their constituents in exactly the same way.
You cannot pool sovereignty. You are either sovereign or you've given your power away. And the British people do not think the European Parliament exercises control or power over the Brussels machine in the way that this Parliament at its best does exercise power over the British government machine. And you can see that in the way that the British electors don't turn out on anything like the same scale in a European election, because they do not believe in that Parliament, and they understand that that Parliament has very limited influence over the unelected bureaucratic government in Brussels. But now we are in the EEC and it's evolved to the European Union. The fundamental condition that one Parliament cannot bind its successors has been removed. And that has completely undermined one of the basic pillars of our democracy. You had to have the rule that any new Parliament can amend or repeal any law of a previous Parliament. It can reverse or change any decision relating to the future about the expenditure of monies or the development of policy. The British people now don't have that full sovereignty. If they elect a new Parliament, the new Parliament discovers, as this one is doing, that there are a very large number of areas where we cannot change things to reflect the will of the British people, because it would be illegal under European law to do so. We find that because so many vetoes have been removed, we can no longer prevent things happening from the European government that we do not want. Worse still, because there's a whole body of agreed European law and treaty that we inherit as a new Parliament and a new government, there are very large areas where we cannot fulfil the will of the British people and we therefore cannot please them. Now, fortunately, Britain still has a fairly powerful Parliament because we stayed out of the euro. Those countries that went into the euro are discovering that they now have puppet parliaments. And we see the terrible tragedy in Greece, where the Greek people have understandably said they want a complete change of economic policy. They want to get away from unemployment and recession and austerity from the European Union and have a pro-growth policy at home, and they are told they cannot do that because it is against European rules.
For the right honourable gentleman, can he tell the House, did he support Margaret Thatcher when she signed up to the Single European Act?
No, Mr. Deputy Speaker, of course I didn't. I gave her very strong advice not to sign up to the European Act. She often took my advice. I think it was a great pity she didn't take my advice on this occasion, because I fear I was also right on that one. She was a very great lady who did hugely important things for this country, not least getting a lot of our money back, which Labour foolishly gave away, meaning we're much worse off than we need be. But she wasn't always right, and I think on this occasion She thought that it was going to help a market, whereas, of course, the truth is, Mr. Deputy Speaker, you don't need a European bureaucracy and a lot of laws to have a market. You just need buyers and sellers. And one simple rule, which is that if something is of merchandisable quality in Britain, then it should be of merchandisable quality in Germany and France as well. And we had that in the Cassis de Dijon judgment, and we didn't really need all these extra laws which have been imposed upon us. But, Mr. Deputy Speaker, because we can no longer change things, the British people too are going to get very frustrated. And we saw their frustrations in the last election. That it was very clear to me in constituencies that elected Conservative MPs and MPs of other parties that there was a very strong majority feeling that this Parliament should be able to decide who comes to our country and who is given admission. And a very strong feeling that this Parliament should decide how generous we should be on welfare benefits and to whom we should pay them. We might disagree amongst ourselves about how many people to invite in. We might disagree about how much money we give them and when we first pay them. That's all a healthy part of our democratic debate. But what we are in the position today is that we cannot decide these things because the powers to control our borders and to settle our welfare system have gone to the bureaucracy and to the courts of Brussels and the continent and are no longer present in the United Kingdom. Now, quite often when we have these debates, it's brought down to a simple issue of trade. I'd like to reassure anyone listening or watching this debate that our trade is not at risk, whether we stay in or we leave. And there's no need to accept my word for that. I'm sure many people here won't accept my word for that, except the word of the German finance minister, who's very clearly stated that he would like Britain to stay in, but if we leave, that of course Germany will want to trade with us on the same terms as she currently does. And why wouldn't Germany? Because she sells us twice as much as we sell Germany. And I say to my right honourable friend who wouldn't take an intervention, there is no way that Germany is going to want to pay a 10% tariff on exporting Mercedes and BMWs into the United Kingdom. And because Germany won't want to pay a 10% tariff, nor will our motor manufacturers have to pay a 10% tariff. So worry not. Our jobs and our trade is in no way at risk. And remember that Britain has faster growing trade with the rest of the world, where we don't belong to a special club, than it has with the rest of Europe, where we do belong to this trade club. Around the world, there are many of these trade clubs. Very few of these trade clubs are evolving in the European way of imposing more and more government and bureaucracy upon their companies and traders, because they believe in prosperity and more free trade. But we don't belong to any of those clubs, but we trade extremely successfully with the countries who are in them. If you are genuinely in a club which promotes trade, you're happy to trade with people from outside the club as well, because you obviously need to be able to trade with the whole of the rest of the world. Mr. Deputy Speaker, many of us feel that the EU as currently constituted is thoroughly undemocratic. It stifles and prevents the will of a once sovereign people from being properly expressed. It means a government cannot be elected on a prospectus which you can implement in all respects, because the European Union won't let it. And above all, the European Union is the past. It's holding us back. It's something from the last century. And it is a complete myth. It is a complete myth that the European Union is a body which keeps the peace. The peace has been kept by NATO and by the fact that our partners, France and Germany and Italy and Spain, are all peace-loving democracies. I'm amazed that these pro-Europeans have such a negative view of our partner democracies in Europe that they think that without a European bureaucracy they'd all be at war with each other. Of course they wouldn't, Mr. Deputy Speaker, both because they now believe in peace themselves and because we have NATO and mighty America guaranteeing the peace, as she has done since 1945. So let's get rid of these myths. Our economy is not at risk. Being out of the EU or in a better and new relationship with the EU is the future. It means we can be more prosperous, we can have more freedom, and above all, we can restore the sovereignty of the British people. We can restore our parliamentary democracy.
Mark.